Okay, you let me know, Mia, when it's good.
Yeah, no worries. It says I'm recording.
Okay, yay. Okay, thank you everyone for joining. This is so exciting. So let's see, make sure this is good to go. Oh no, let's see. There we go. Okay, so as we get started, like I said, we want to spend as much time on the content as possible, but I want everyone to get to know each other. So in the chat, please put your name, pronouns, organization, and workplace, just so everyone knows who's here. So while we do some introductions, I do want to introduce the team real quick so you know everyone who's speaking today. So my name is Charlotte. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm the Education and Training Manager. Jenya, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes. Hi, I'm Jenya Cassidy, and I'm the director of the statewide California Work and Family Coalition.
My name is Katie Watersmith, and I am the political organizing director for the California Work and Family Coalition, and my pronouns are she, her.
Perfect. And then Mia.
Hey everybody, Mia Hemstad here. I'm the communications manager. My pronouns are she, her, hers. And I'll pass it to Angelica.
Hello everyone, my name is Angelica Andrade and I'm the administrative assistant and my pronouns are she and her.
Perfect. And then Angelica, if you want to introduce the coalition.
Yes, so a little bit about us. We are a statewide alliance of organizations united in the belief that all people should have the time and resources to care for themselves and each other. And our 3 goals are to learn the basics of California paid family leave law, eligibility, and application requirements. The second goal is to understand existing and new legal protections for pregnant workers, new parents, and caregivers. The third goal is to learn how to use the paid leave checklist and resource materials to help people access the benefit.
Thank you, Angelica. So those are the 3 training goals today. And to reach those goals, our agenda for today is to start with the paid family leave checklist, paid family leave laws, go into job protection laws. We'll have a quick Q&A session on paid family leave and job protection. Go into the paid family leave checklist, have a role play with me and Katie on how to use that. I'll go look over our education resources, next steps, and then a final Q&A before ending our session. So let's get right into it. So paid family leave. Paid family leave provides partial wage replacement for California workers who need to take time off to bond with a new child or care for a seriously ill family member. And you apply for paid family leave through the EDD website. And when we do share these PDF slides with you, it is hyperlinked in here, so it'll take you right to the website. So the eligibility requirements for paid family leave. The most basic eligibility requirement is paying into the state disability insurance. So as you see here in this picture, this is a picture of your pay stub. And in the bottom, you can see here highlighted CA, state disability insurance. If you see that on your pay stub, that means you qualify for paid family leave. And the other qualifications is that you take this leave to when you have a new child, when you birth a new child, care for an adopted child, or need to care for a seriously ill family member. And you need to earn at least 300 from which SDI deductions were withheld from the base period. One important note that we really emphasize is that citizenship and immigration status do not affect eligibility for paid family leave benefits. Like I said, the most basic form of eligibility is that you pay into the SDI system. So there's not going to be a question about citizenship or immigration status. It is strictly that you pay into SDI, and that's how you qualify. So what is SDI? So the state disability insurance is a state fund that the majority of California workers pay into. You can use this when you have a temporary disability. So this is for pregnancy related conditions or paid family leave. This is also a wage replacement program. And the eligibility requirements for SDI is that one, you're unable to do your regular or customary work on your job. You are in the California labor market, that you will suffer wage loss when you take leave. And then just like paid family leave, you have earned at least 300 from which SDI deductions were withheld during the base period. So that is SDI. Then that's the qualifications for paid family leave. So let's go back into paid family leave and understand that a bit more. So there's two main reasons, like I said, paid individuals take paid family leave. One is for bonding, one is for caregiving. So paid family leave for bonding it's a partial wage replacement for parents while they take leave from work to bond or care for a newborn, adopted, or fostered child within the first year of the birth or placement of that foster child. The wage replacement is 60 to 70% of your normal wages. This is up to $1,300 per week. As of July 1st, 2020, it is up to 8 weeks. You can take up to 8 weeks of leave. For the 60 and 70%, the majority of California workers do qualify for the 60% of wages. Those who qualify for the 70% are usually in the very low income bracket. For the 8 weeks of leave, you can take this all at once or in parts. You can take 2 weeks here, go back on your job, take 2 weeks again. It is up to you when you take that leave, and you can apply through the EDD website within 49 days of knowing that you're planning to take that leave. For the bonding application, you do need to require proof of relationship. So for bonding, both parents can take bonding. Both parents within that relationship can take time to bond with that child. So there will need to be proof of relationship from birth parents, non-birth parents, foster and adoptive parents. If the birth parent used pregnancy disability leave, they do not have to provide further proof of the relationship with that child. For the non-birth parent, since they did not take pregnancy disability leave, they do have to provide proof with that child, such as a birth certificate. For foster and adoptive parents, you do have to provide a certificate saying that you're the official parent for this child or foster child. Now, moving to caregiving, it is somewhat similar, that it is also a wage replacement program, but it is for a seriously ill family member. And specifically within the law, a family member is defined as children, spouses, domestic partners, parents, grandparents, children, parent-in-law, and siblings. Again, it is 60 to 70% of wages, up to 8 weeks. This can be taken all at once or in parts, applied through the EDD within 49 days. So this is, it's a very similar process. It's just if you're taking it for bonding or caregiving. Again, for the application, it is required to show a certification, a medical recipient authorization for disclosure of personal health information, or a statement of care recipient showing that the person that you're caring for is seriously ill, and which is why you need to take caregiving leave. You can care for a family member in another state or country. The care does not have to occur in California. So for example, my grandparents in the Philippines, my grandma, if she for some reason is seriously ill and needs me to come take care of her, I would ask her doctor to provide that medical certification. I would go to Jenya and let her know that I'm taking this leave when I apply on the EDD, so that medical certification, and go to the Philippines and care for my grandmother for those 8 weeks. So it does not have to be in California, but you do just have to provide that clarification and documentation as to who you're caring for and the reason. So that is the essence of paid family leave. Let's go into a poll question. The poll questions will be anonymous, so it won't show your name. So please participate. So poll question 1.
Javier.
Oh,
sorry.
sorry. Go on.
You want me to? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So Javier and his partner, Michelle, just had a baby. Can Javier take paid family leave to bond with his baby? Javier looked at his paycheck, and California SDI is not taken out of his paycheck. We'll give everyone like a minute to respond. Lots of feedback coming in. No. Whenever you want to end the poll, Charlotte, go ahead.
All right. So this is good. I think this is great. So when we share the results, the majority is no, and that is fantastic because, okay, sorry. It is no. So no, Javier does not qualify for paid family leave because he does not pay into state disability insurance. For those who didn't know or said yes, I understand it's still confusing because it is a lot of information. I'm just gonna go back real quickly just to emphasize this is that the thing that you need to know about paid family leave and the most basic eligibility is that you pay into SDI. When you look at your pay stub, the California State Disability Insurance should be on your pay stub. That means you qualify for paid family leave. So thanks for that. Let's do another poll question.
Okay, so poll question 2. Katrina's father has cancer and he needs her help to attend doctor's appointments, to get medication, and to take care of him at home while he receives treatment. Her paycheck says that California SDI is taken out of her paycheck. Can she use paid family leave to care for her father? Katie's going to launch the poll question in just a second.
Can you all see the poll?
I can't see it.
Okay.
No, can't see it.
There, I can see it now.
Oh, this was poll question 1.
Oh, it's poll question 1.
Okay. Here we go. Okay, so poll question 2. We'll give everyone a few
People
minutes.
answering yes. You guys are becoming pros already. Look at this. Awesome.
Awesome. Yes. So we're going to end the poll real quick. Yes. Fantastic. It is yes. Oh, so sorry. Little technical difficulties here and there. Okay. So yes. So Katrina can use paid family leave to care for her father. She's eligible for a PFL because she pays into the California State Disability Insurance. Fantastic. Yes. Great job, guys. So paid family leave is a wage replacement only program. Like we said, is through SDI. You get 60-70% of your wage replacement, but it does not require your employer to give you your job when you get back from leave. So we're going to go into job protection. Jenya is going to talk about job protection and some of those laws and how you're eligible.
Yes, hi, thank you, Charlotte. So I'm going to talk about as Charlotte said, paid leave is just a wage replacement system. Job protection is basically what gives you the right to take leave. So your employer must guarantee your job or a comparable job when you return from leave, or maintain your benefits during leave, and also there should be no retaliation against workers for using or attempting to use leave is also prohibitive. That's basically what job protection means. I think of it as almost like an invisible shield that protects your job while you're taking this time off. So your employer is only required to protect your job if you are covered by the separate federal or state laws that cover your job. And going to the next slide, I'm going to go over that. So these are the laws, and they can be a little confusing. One of the things, somebody asked if we can talk about taking leave in parts, and that does apply both to paid leave and to job protection. So we'll go over that in a second. So Family Medical Leave Act, the FMLA, is 12 weeks of job protection at the federal level, both to bond with a new child or to care for yourself or a seriously ill family member. The California Family Rights Act basically does the same thing, and we recently passed a law to expand it. The New Parent Leave Act, which we'll go over, which protects the jobs of parents when they're taking leave. And then Katie, in a few minutes, will talk about pregnancy disability leave. You can go to the next slide. This is what can make it a little bit confusing, but if you think about it, you're usually taking your job protection and your paid leave at the same time. Oh, did you skip that on purpose? I wasn't sure.
Yeah, sorry. I just wanted, here's the asterisk part. And just go ahead, Jenya.
Yeah, we'll talk about this in a minute, but basically we just expanded through work with the Coalition and Partners, which was really great, a law that will extend the California Family Rights Act to more people. So that will cover the New Parent Leave Act. That might be a little, go to the next one. That'll make more sense in a minute. So what are the eligibility requirements? You have to be 1 year on the job, that's your tenure. You should have worked 1,250 hours. This is about 25 hours a week in the year prior to taking the leave. This is all still in effect. And then for most of the job protection laws, right now you need 50 or more employees for one's own serious illness or caregiving leave. This will change in the new year. It'll be 5 or more, which is really great news because it just makes a lot more people eligible to take this time off. Right now and up till the end of December, for new parents only, you have to have 20 plus employees to take this leave. And that's basically just to take the leave without risking your job. Theoretically, your employer could say no or could say, I would have to terminate you if you took this leave. Doesn't mean they would all do that, but this is good to have this extra protection when you take the leave, or very vital and important, actually. I'm going to the next slide. So one of the really exciting things that happened this year is in the coalition and a lot of groups that have been working on this for a while, part of what makes this so confusing is that you can literally have this paid family leave but not have the job protection when you take it. We're really trying to line them up. So as of January 1st, all employees who work for an employer with 5 or more employees and meet the other requirements of the California Family Rights Act, which would include 1 year on the job and 1,250 hours worked in the past year, will qualify for job protection when they take leave, which means they should suffer no retaliation, no big changes, and they, of course, should not be terminated when they take this leave. And this is, don't worry if this is the confusing part. This is definitely something that we will be going over next week, and we'll be coming back to a few times because it can be what's most confusing about our leave laws. But here's the breakdown of the basic laws. If you would qualify for job protection under the Family Medical Leave Act if you're taking time to bond with a new child or care of foster child or adoptive child or care for a seriously ill close family member. And there are a lot of different health conditions that fall under that. You have worked at your job for 12 months and your employer has 50 or more employees in a 75-mile radius. This is the law that's been in effect since 1993. It is really covers a lot of people, but doesn't cover everybody. In California, we have a law that was basically in tandem with the FMLA, really for all the same things, except for pregnancy, which Katie will go over the special law we have for pregnant workers when they take time off. So California Family Rights Act is the law that we just expanded, but up till the end of this year, it's still 50 or more employees in a 75-mile radius. One of the differences in our laws in California is that we do cover more pregnant, not more pregnant, but more new parents when they take leave to bond with a new child in businesses if it's 20 or more. This will go down to 5 in the new year because of the changes to the law. So these are the basic family leave rights that you have. And I think what is kind of confusing sometimes is it's really just an invisible right that basically just allows you to return to the same job. But we found that was one of the #1 reasons people weren't taking leave sometimes is they were confused about their right to take leave. Can go forward. So that's something that we'll be going over a little bit more. And I saw a question. I'm not sure if we should talk about it now or Charlotte, if you want to cover questions more in a bit about unemployment and taking leave. So your rights under FMLA and CFRA is basically 12 weeks per year, and that's all at once or intermittently. It's a little bit, so when you think of that, so if tomorrow you needed to take leave to care for a seriously ill family member, your year usually would start tomorrow. The only difference would be if you had some kind of union contract that defined a year differently, like that it's a calendar year. But for the most part, the day you start is the day your year starts. So with job protection means that you are restored to the same or equivalent job, you continue your health benefits, and that you're protected from discrimination or retaliation. I'm so sorry, I think there's a big machine behind me right now. Our part, I don't know if people can hear it. All right, Charlotte, you can.
Yeah.
Okay, so Katie will talk a little bit about pregnancy disability leave. And
Yes, and Katie, before you talk about, I just want to just say, like, don't be overwhelmed about this graphic. We'll talk about this more for the resources. We provided this because we thought it's a really great breakdown for each job protection law and qualification, as well as this as well. So if it's overwhelming, we will have a Q&A soon. And I know Jenya said there was a question about unemployment. After Katie talks about pregnancy disability a bit, we'll go into a Q&A session. So Katie, if you want to talk about this.
Sure. Thanks, Charlotte. So in California, we also have a special job protection law for pregnant workers. So this is the leave that I think most people are familiar with when they have a new baby. Typically, the leave will last for about 4 weeks before the estimated due date and 6 or 8 weeks after birth for an uncomplicated pregnancy. It's a pretty strong law. The requirements really are that the pregnant worker work for an employer with 5 or more employees and have some kind of what is considered under disability law, disability due to pregnancy, childbirth, or a related condition. This job protection can be used for prenatal care. It can be used intermittently, which means it can be taken in parts as well. And the employer is required to continue health benefits during that time as well. What I think a lot of people aren't aware of, though, is that if your doctor or your care provider feels that you need more time off than sort of the typical amount, your doctor can write you a note, and then you can take up to a total of 4 months of unpaid job protected leave. So examples of when people might need more time is, say, prenatally, if someone's on bed rest. We've worked with farm workers who are at higher risk of exposure to pesticides in their first trimester, who may need to take leave earlier, or if someone has an unexpectedly complicated birth, they can talk to their doctor, and if they're, need longer to recover, and they can get a doctor's note for that as well. The pay that someone could receive while on pregnancy disability leave is through the state disability insurance fund, as Charlotte was mentioning earlier, because it's for one's own disability related to pregnancy. And then we have talked about this a couple times because we're just super excited about this expansion of job protection. And so what will happen when SB 1383 goes into effect on January 1st is that if people have worked for their job for 1 year, they've worked for 1,250 hours in that year, and then they just need to work for an employer with 5 or more employees to qualify for job protection. So it's a pretty significant expansion of people who are eligible for job protection under the California Family Rights Act. The other key piece of this law that we haven't emphasized as much yet is that it lines up the definition of family member under the job protection laws with the definition of family member that you can receive pay to care for under the paid family leave program. So if you recall earlier in the training, Charlotte listed out a number of family members that you can take caregiving leave to care for: children, spouses, domestic partners, parents, grandparents, grandchildren, parents-in-law, and siblings. And up until now, the number of family members that you could receive job protected leave to care for was actually a shorter list. So for instance, siblings were not covered. So if your sibling had some kind of an issue and you needed to take time off to care for them, then you would be able to receive pay, but you wouldn't qualify for job protection. So we're pretty excited about this law, and it does go into effect on January 1st. So the leave would have to start after that law goes into effect for these new requirements to be in effect. And then we did just want to briefly address, if you don't qualify for job protection, you still could use paid family leave as long as you're paying into the state disability insurance program. You can ask your employer if you can take leave from your job but they do not have a legal obligation to accommodate your request for leave. So that is why we are working so hard to expand these job protection laws, because we know how important job protection is, so that people can actually use the paid family leave that they pay for.
Thank you, Katie. And to quickly iterate, like there are many steps to ensure your rights, and we'll talk about this a bit more in session 2. But just to address it, talk to your doctor and medical provider if you are taking paid family leave to bond with your new child or caregiver. Talk to your medical provider as to when that estimated leave would be. What is the medical condition? Talk to your employer. Let them know when you're taking this leave. Understand job protection. Also, you can talk to the EDD. Like I said, the website has many great resources. The link will be there. We'll provide more resources as far as how to talk to EDD and more supportive resources. But the most important thing is document your communication. Document everything that your medical provider says to you, how you talk to your employer as far as texts and emails. Get everything in writing so there is a record. It's not always the case that your employer says no or there's retaliation or anything like that, but it's just always important to record that, have that communication for your support, and to also provide that communication and documentation for your EDD application. So we'll go into this a bit more in session 2, but just to highlight this now. So after all that talk for job protection, we do want to go into a couple more polls before we go into a Q&A session. Let me go into poll question 2 real quick. Okay. Mia, if you wanted to.
Yeah, awesome. So Taylor is planning to adopt a baby. Taylor has worked at the same employer for 5 years. They work 30 hours per week and thinks that about 30 people work at their job. Will Taylor be able to take job protected leave to bond with their new baby?
We'll give everyone a bit more time on this one since it's a bit longer and a bit complicated. All right, couple more seconds, get your answers in. All right, so I'm gonna end the polling now. I'm gonna share the results. So you see here a majority said yes and some of you said no. So let's check what the answer is. And the answer is yes. So, it is complicated, so I understand it's still taking time for everyone to learn this, but so it is yes, Taylor will qualify for job protection because Taylor needs to take time off to bond with the adopted baby, has worked for their employer for more than 1 year, has worked 30 hours per week, which is approximately 1,560 hours in the past year, and works for an employer with more than 20 employees. So good job. And it's okay if you get it wrong. It is a learning process and we're still going through this together. And I will launch the second poll now if you want to read the poll question, Mia, while I launch it.
Yeah. So Nina's registered domestic partner needs emergency surgery. Nina has worked for her employer. Sorry, I got a little distracted from the poll. Hold on. Nina has worked for her employer for 9 months, works 40 hours per week, and works at a large company with about 70 employees. Will Nina be able to use job protected leave to care for her partner?
All right, a few more seconds. Get your answers in. And if you don't know, that is completely fine. Just do your best guess. All right, so I'm about to end the polling now. And I will share the results. So here are the results. 6 of you said yes, the majority said no, and 1 of you didn't know. That is completely fine. So let's look at the answer. So no, Nina will not qualify for job protected leave because she does not meet all the requirements. Nina does not meet the following requirements. She needs to take leave to care for her registered domestic partner who has to have a medical condition. She has to have worked 40 hours per week, which is approximately 1,440 hours, and then last 9 months. And so she has to work more than 1,250 hours, and she has to work for an employer with more than 70 employees. So Nina does not meet these requirements because she did not work for an employer for at least 1 year. She's only worked for 9 months. So I know that one's a bit confusing, right? I know and I feel like every situation will be confusing as people ask you questions. I'm going to scroll back up real quick to the graphic here. And I think this is what I'm trying to iterate here, is that this is going to be a really great resource for all of you to reference, right? As far as did your person work for 12 months? How many hours? How many employees in X amount and 75-mile radius? I think this will be a great reference for a lot of you to help guide you through answering some of these questions and when people ask you questions. So, good job. I know this is a lot of information, and we will be providing these slides in a PDF and this recording. And we're going to keep going through this second session as well. We'll have a lot more poll questions and role play. So by the end of these 3 trainings, you'll have a better understanding. So with that being said, let's go into some questions. Mia, if you want to look at some of the questions people have.
Yes, so I have them recorded. The first question we received was, can you elaborate on taking leave in parts? Does this apply for both parents? Is there a time limit that it has to be taken, such as all before the first year?
Should we try to answer these?
Yeah, Jenny, if you want to go ahead.
Just go ahead and say what the answer is or what the next step is. Within the first year, I think I answered a little bit in the chat, but even if you're taking intermittent leave, you still have leave either from birth, so count literally the day your child's born till that same day, the next year, or with adoption or fostering, it would be placed in the home, that you would have the time to take the bonding leave.
Awesome. Here's the next question. I'm putting it in the chat for you, Jenya.
Oh, okay. So then, so that's, if you, I started answering these in the chat, which I think can be confusing, but yes, you definitely can apply for UI, but as many of you know, UI has its own kind of different world of strictures and things. So there's a lot of other factors that come into play. So what I would do would be apply if there's any problem, which can sometimes come from the employer. I would call legal aid at work. Partly, there's other legal services that we're also connected to depending on your region, but legal aid at work, I happen to know, has both expertise in UI and in family leave. So they would sort of see the intersection, but I would ask them if you had any problem, but there's no immediate stricture that says you can. So definitely I would do that.
And on top of that, we will be providing a resource. It'll be a video of EDD explaining UI at some point. It won't be this week, but in the upcoming weeks when we provide resources, there might be a bit more clarification that you can watch a video about UI and unemployment.
Yeah.
So I went ahead and added the next question, Jenya. It says, is the 12-month job requirement in the same company or 12 consecutive months of working different companies?
Yeah, and that's what's so confusing about job protection and why we believe it should be universal, but is not yet. So it's interesting because when you take paid leave, you're really applying for this fund that you've already paid into. So that's an insurance kind of separate from your job, right? But when you look at the job protection, you're really interfacing with your employer. So that 12-month requirement would have to do with that one employer. Even though we know that a lot of people have multiple jobs in a year and that might not always work out for everybody, in my opinion, it's not 100% fair, but that's the way it is now. It really has to do with that one employer. So if you had 2 jobs, for example, you would have job protection for the one that you had for a year. If you started a second job mid-year, you would have to work that out with your employer because you wouldn't automatically have job protection, if that makes sense.
All right, here's the next question. Can you go through the process of applying? Sorry, I wanted to just read it out for everybody. Can you go through the process of applying for these different programs? When can you apply for PDL? How far in advance? When can you apply for PFL? Only after birth, but before disability runs out?
This is a great question because I think it goes to the heart of why the way we have to take our job protection and our paid leave at the same time gets a little confusing. Because if you think about it, paid leave is this program that you apply for. I paid into this. I have a qualifying condition. I need to take it. And condition can be caring for my grandmother or having a new child. But PDL, CFRA, FMLA, the other job protection laws really aren't something you apply for per se. And that might be a little confusing. So what you're doing is alerting your employer, I'm taking this leave because I'm having a new child, or I adopted a new child, or I'm adopting a new child, or I'm caring for a family member. And that kind of sets that in motion that you have that invisible shield of job protection. Some employers make it confusing and create an application, but really it is just giving them notice. So I hope that makes sense, but you're not necessarily applying. And I think with the PDL, the question was, you're really applying. So the two kinds of money you're on when you're the birth parent are for your own serious health condition, you're on pregnancy disability leave, and you're probably taking state disability insurance for your own condition. 6 to 8 weeks after that, then you are still on disability for your own serious health condition of having given birth, even if it was an easy birth. And then after that, you have the bonding leave. All of the job protection is just you being able to return to work. You're not really applying for it, but you do apply for PDL. You do apply for the paid leave after having the time that you're disabled from pregnancy. So you can't apply way in advance. They'll make you do it again, if that answers that. Hopefully that's clear. And it is something that we're going to go over in more detail next week, and also have a little bit more time for some back and forth questions.
Awesome. There's another question in the chat, but I wanted to make sure we got to the one that was asked before that. So I'll keep track of all of them, I promise. So this next question is, I just wanted to confirm that you can take pregnancy disability leave and CFRA. They do not have to run concurrently at the same time.
Yeah, they don't. You're done with pregnancy disability leave either 6 weeks if you have vaginal delivery, 8 weeks if you have a cesarean, then your 12 weeks of CFRA starts. So that's the bond. They keep the bonding separate on purpose so that you're not running out of your bonding while you're on leave for your own condition.
And I wanted to jump in real quick. We'll have time for 2 more questions. I want to let everyone know next week we'll have a longer Q&A portion. So if we don't get to your question, please write it down or email me and we will address it next week. Just because we have a bit more content after this questioning to show you about resources. So let's have 2 more questions and then we'll move into some of our resources for all of you.
Yeah, and Mia is also taking down all the questions so that we'll be sure to address these in some way or another, because a lot of you are either helping people or you're in some of these situations. So we know it's really important to get to all of these, but I think more detail even on some of this next week.
Yes. Alicia asked, if a person has all requirements to qualify for PFL and job protection, can the employer deny PFL or the time to take PFL or fire him?
You mean the employer?
Yes.
No. So the employer, so since you're applying to PF for the paid leave through EDD, that's your money that you've paid into, right? The harder part is if an employer says no, even though you have the right. In that case, for the most part, you really just need to know your rights. You need to be very confident, tell your employer, give them enough notice, as much notice as possible. Not always possible to give notice. People have emergencies. Family members get seriously ill very quickly, and we need to tell them literally the day that you're taking the leave. That happens, but your employer should not say no. And it can be very difficult because we know that some employers don't understand the law themselves, or who knows, you know. And in that case, if you have a union, obviously you would talk to your shop steward to try to help you enforce your rights. If you don't have a union, in that case, you can call one of the legal services that we work with. A lot of them specialize in paid leave and can give you advice about what to do next. But they shouldn't be, legally, they're not really able to do that. They are not supposed to be able to deny you leave when you meet all the requirements.
And on top of that, I wanted to add that we'll be providing resources in the upcoming weeks. There's there are memos with our partners that they created that structure, that show that this is your right legally and this is what you're taking, and making sure that it's structured right and communicating properly. So we'll be providing those memos and PDFs that you can utilize for your clients or community members to make sure they're articulating it properly and ensuring their rights.
Yeah.
I have the other two questions here, but we'll save that for the end so that we can go ahead and keep going through the content.
Sounds good. So we'll get back to that. So those were really great questions. Like I said, we'll address them more in depth next week and have more Q&A. So this is one of the resources that we are providing this week. And, you know, from now until the next session, it would be really great to take the time to review these PDF slides and review this checklist. So this paid leave checklist really helps you identify what job protection you'll be needed to, what job protection you qualify for, and what paid leave you'll be taking. So these 5 questions are: why are you using the time off? What city do you live in? How long have you worked there? How many hours have you worked at this workplace in the past 12 months? And how many employees does your company have in a 75-mile radius? So if you remember that job protection graphic that we had of the 3 separate bars of CIFRA, FMLA, and U-Parent, this is a great resource to utilize with this, right? So you can compare what exactly job protection they have based on the answers that is filled out on the checklist. So we'll be providing this, but to simulate this, Katie and Mia is going to do a role play. So one of them is going to be a lactation consultant assisting a new parent with breastfeeding and helping this new mother understand what are her rights and what leave she's able to take.
Right, so we will just jump right in. So I am the lactation consultant and Mia is going to be the parent. So hi, it's so exciting that you're going home today. I just wanted to check in with you about a couple of things before you all head out. You're doing such an amazing job with breastfeeding, and I want to make sure that you have the support you need when you go home.
Yes, it's going a lot better today, but I'm a little worried about how I'm going to keep this up once I go back to work.
Absolutely. Yeah, it can definitely be challenging, but certainly not impossible once you establish breastfeeding. Keeping up your milk supply while working is also easier if you have the time at home to recover and get into a good breastfeeding rhythm with your babies before you go back to work. Are you familiar with paid family leave for bonding?
I've heard about it, but I don't know if I qualify. I don't think I had that with my first child.
No worries. Let me ask you a couple of questions to help determine if you qualify. So most Californians pay into paid family leave, and it's a great program for helping both parents to take time to bond. One thing that's a little tricky about it is that there are separate laws that govern your pay and other laws that make sure that your job is protected. Okay, so do you and your husband both pay into California SDI? You would see it on your paycheck.
Yes, we both do.
Okay, great. And we know that you are taking this leave to bond with a new baby, or I should say 2 babies. What city do you all work in?
Costa Mesa.
All right, great. And how long have you and your husband worked at your jobs?
I've worked at my job for 2 years, and my husband has been at his job for about 3 years.
Okay, excellent. And if you had to guess, about how many hours do you think you both work each week?
We both work full-time, so 40 hours.
Excellent. Okay. And last question, again, this doesn't have to be exact, but about how many employees do you estimate that you work with?
I think I have about 25 coworkers, and my husband works with about 30 people, if I had to guess.
Amazing. So thank you so much for answering all these questions. Based on everything that you said, it sounds like you should be able to take time off for bonding leave and should both meet the qualifications for the job protection and for the pay. Your situation is a little bit different from your husband's because you can take pregnancy disability leave, which is probably what you're already on now, first, and then bonding leave. And most people don't know this, but if you get a note from your doctor, you can actually extend your pregnancy disability leave beyond the 6 to 8 weeks they usually give you if you feel like you need more time to recover. You did have twins, so that's already a more complicated pregnancy. And you would need a medical reason to extend your pregnancy disability leave. So make sure that you do talk to your doctor if you feel like you need more time to recover. Then once you've taken pregnancy disability leave, you can look into the bonding leave. For your husband, he should qualify for bonding leave based on the information that you shared. So it's a little bit less time overall than the amount of time that you would have, but still really important that he can spend time with you as you all adjust. Here's a handout, so you don't have to remember anything that I just said. You can take it home and check it out when you get home. It tells you all about how to apply for paid family leave through the EDD, how to make sure your job is protected, and there's even a link for more information and a phone number to call if you have questions. And this is actually a legal hotline, so if you're are confused about your legal rights or feel like you need extra support, you can call this phone number.
This is so helpful. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Good luck to you and the twins. Enjoy your leave.
Yay!
Okay, that was so good. Thanks, Katie and Mia. That was so good. So that's how we're kind of trying to stimulate this paid leave checklist, right? So Katie, there'll be screening questions, and a lot of these resources we will provide. And how Katie, asked why is she taking the time off, really understanding the qualifications as to what leave you can take and job protection you have. So you don't have to be an expert. Like we said, we will provide you the resources. We will provide you the support. So our biggest thing is that please take time to review the checklist, take time to review the PDF slides. So next week, we're really going to hone down on this checklist and hone down on how to use it and how to have more role plays. We'll stimulate that a bit more, have a bit more poll questions so you can have a better understanding of that. So thanks so much, Katie and Mia. That was so good. So like I said, we're going to be providing resources and materials. We'll be providing this training session that is recorded, the PDF slides. Please review those PDF slides as far as the content, read through it, understand the graphics of the job protection, look at the paid leave checklist, the screening questionnaire that we will be providing. We'll also be providing other PDFs that have information and related laws and topics. So take the time from now until the next training session next Tuesday just to review this. So when we have the role plays, when we have the polls, and if you have more questions, that's a great time to ask. We do want to emphasize that we will continue to develop more resources and materials, and we will email them to you. These materials will be developed throughout these 3 weeks and also beyond the training. So as we develop those, we will let you know and email them to you to utilize. So next steps, like I said, to prep for session 2, review the training slides, review the checklist, and review materials. Come with questions, be ready to do some role plays and sharing information. The tentative agenda for session 2 is that we'll go over paid family leave and job protection again, just to refresh our memory. We're going to talk about paid sick and safe days, do some poll questions, some role play, practice sharing information. And like I said, we'll have a larger Q&A and discussion portion. So that's for the tentative agenda. So we're doing really great on time. And since we have a lot more time, we can have quite a few more questions if people want to ask some questions now.
Yes, and I'm curious too, what if people want to either in the chat or even just unmute and say something. I know we only have so many minutes, but just curious what things people want to hear more about next time, like are some kind of lingering questions or what you might want us to spend more time on that we've already talked about a little bit? Because I know it can be confused or even add confusion sometimes.
I did put 2 questions in the chat, Jenya, that we didn't get to earlier. The first one is, if someone is currently approved for unemployment from EDD, does she need to change to maternity leave and bonding leave after, or just keep the unemployment benefits?
I love this question because I feel like this is going to be a bigger thing now because we have so many people, unfortunately, that are on unemployment and then go on. I think the answer I know now, and this is something I'd like to get more clarification on between now and next week. So we'll definitely do that. But you are supposed to, what I don't know is the weighing what is better in terms of your family finances and what would happen if you made a different choice. Because it can be a little bit clunky, I know, to go off of one, go on the other, and then go back on the other later. There's something a little bit of a lag time there, and that's, I'm just knowing anecdotally. But I will get a little bit more clarification on what sort of the rules are around this. I just know that, you know, the idea is when you're on unemployment, you are seeking a job, but then if you're either caring for a family member so you can't work or bonding because you can't work, you have, in a way, stepped out of the labor pool temporarily saying, I'm not going to even be looking for a job because I'm doing this bonding or caregiving. So that's kind of the rule of it. In terms of how that plays out, if somebody was worried about a gap of money and was worried about going off unemployment to go on the other thing, I feel like I want to ask some of our experts. We're actually meeting with the EDD before the next one, and I feel like that's a good question for some of their staff too, on how to navigate it. Hopefully that's helpful.
And the last question I put in there, I realized we already answered that. So we're opening up the floor. Kimberly's asking, wouldn't it be better to stay on unemployment so that you can have access to COVID-19 benefits for virtual schooling needs if required?
I think it can be better, and for me, the issue is sort of the going off, getting on something and then going off, you know, the back and forth. Theoretically, if you personally can't work, and the unemployment is more like you don't have a job, but you're looking for a job, and then if you can't work, the rule is to be on something else at that time, disability or something else. That's another really good question that I would have to think about more, because up from now until the end of the year, there are some extra COVID laws that are coming into play with some of this. Either they add time or they add other benefits. And so that's going to be we'll be in a different world starting January 1st on that. But we're recording all of these questions, and that's another one I would want to come back to or even put in the chat next time as we figure it out, because it's similar, like what should somebody do if unemployment's better for them personally.
Awesome. And then there was one more question I missed. It's, so would you still have access to the fund, but your job is not secure if you don't qualify for like one of the job protected pieces?
Yeah, and Katie, I don't know, do you want to answer this? Because I know Maria asked you, either one of us can answer, but why don't you go ahead because I've been talking.
Sure. Yeah, so that's, yeah, you would still have access to the funds, but your job would not be secure, especially if your employer was unsupportive, right? So they could always choose to support you, but the problem is if they are not supportive, then you really don't have any legal support or recourse. So my rule of thumb is if you're ever unclear on the job protection or just someone's particular situation, or they're being told they don't qualify for something, I always just refer to a legal hotline to make sure that they're getting good support, legal support, so that they know their rights and what their options are. But yeah, that's why we've been doing so much advocacy to expand job protection laws, because we know that if you don't have job protection, then it's really difficult to take paid family leave.
Yeah, and it is totally separate because your employer really literally has no impact over you having the funds. It's just most people don't want to risk their job, of course. They have a few weeks, so that's what makes it a barrier to leave.
Great, so those are all the questions that I had, but we are still keeping the floor open. I think we have about 2 more minutes, and we can go a little bit over if we need to, about 5 minutes, if there's any more questions.
Yeah, I'm curious if what was most helpful and what people want to hear more about, and if people even want to just unmute and shout it out, that'd be fine with me. Charlotte, is that fine with you?
Yeah, no, definitely. I'm actually going to stop sharing my screen so we can all see each other. So the last couple of slides is just a quick thank you. But yeah, so we have 1 more minute left. Thank you for joining us. This is really great. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. So like Jenya said, if you guys want to let us know real quick, what you want to learn more about next week, we do have content lined up, but if there's anything else you want to know.
There's one question in the chat Kimberly asked, and I don't know the answer to that one.
Yes, they do, except for pregnancy-related conditions, which is great because that's exactly what gives you more time when you're pregnant, because you have your PDL, which is protecting your pregnancy, and then that is, but then STIFRA is, and then that runs concurrently with FMLA for pregnancy. We have a chart on this we'll show you next time. And then when you're done with all the pregnancy, which for us is also the 8 to 6 weeks after to recuperate, you then have the 12 weeks of STIFRA, which can give, which is your job protected bonding time, which can give a lot of new birth parents a lot more time because they have time for both, which is very good. And a unique thing about California, which makes us, one of the things that makes us better than other states on this, even though we're behind in some other ways. So there's a little opinionated opinion there.
Yes, so it is 1 o'clock. I want to be conscientious of time. We will stay on for a few more minutes in case people do have questions. Otherwise, watch out for my email tomorrow, and I'll provide resources, the next steps, and please fill out the evaluation in that email. But thank you for joining us for our first training. This was fantastic. I hope you all enjoyed it, and we will see you next Tuesday at 12 p.m.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. People are so upbeat on the chat. So they literally could have minimized it and be doing something else now. You never know.
All right. Oops. I think if you want to stop recording now.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah, I think
I
I'll be
forgot.
good.